I was reading on Facebook about Spike Lee complaining about the gentrification of Brooklyn, and I wanted to do a video about talking about gentrification. A lot of people saying that the African Americans and the Hispanics and everybody else is being pushed out of the neighborhoods, and what I see and saying that it's gentrification that white people are coming to take the neighborhood back. I'm gonna dispel that, try to refute that argument in this video. Nobody is really taking anything away. If you really look at these neighborhoods, they were crumbling and falling apart, and African Americans and Hispanics and everybody else had the chance to build those neighborhoods up. But instead, because they did not want to use their money in an effective manner, they didn't build the neighborhood up. They didn't. One, we didn't think about buying any property. A lot of African Americans we had over the last 30 years had the opportunity to buy this property at rock bottom prices. I remember people talking about Harlem. In the 1980s, you could buy buildings for $10,000 or $20,000. You could buy brownstones for $10,000 or $20,000, and African Americans had plenty of opportunities to buy this property because we had a lot of people with post office jobs, a lot of people with civil service jobs, transit jobs, but they decided, you know what, I'm going to go buy this Mercedes Benz and go live in the projects rather than and stay in the projects and live ghetto fabulous than go out here and buy a piece of property, um, spend little more money, building it up, renovating it, hiring contractors, and renovating this property. No, they just didn't want to do the work, and a lot of African Americans, a lot of black people, we just did not want to do the work. So all this talk about gentrification, I find that to be just nonsense because you had plenty of money, you had plenty of time, there were plenty of people with good jobs who had an opportunity to build these neighborhoods up and do what they had to do. And I mean, at the time, especially during the 80s, like in my previous video, I talked about how in the 80s people had these property was at rock bottom prices. It was dirt cheap. Um, you had the opportunity of a lifetime and you didn't take it. You just did not take it. And the same thing's happening right now. The whole thing is that we African Americans, we black people, we don't take the opportunities that are in front of us. We don't have the vision, we don't have the imagination, we don't have the creativity. We all we see is a ghetto. We don't, again, because we have this consumer mindset, we don't have a producer way of thinking. A producer looks at raw materials, looks at dilapidated buildings and sees what it could be, not what it is. And black people, we didn't see what it could be. We don't see that our neighborhoods could be just as nice as the suburbs. No, we take our money and we go and move into the white neighborhoods because we think white is better. Again, like I'd say, the white man's ice is always cold. Like they say, the white man's ice is always cold. That's always been our problem, and that's why we don't have neighborhoods because we don't think about, let me go buy this building or let six or seven of us get together and buy this apartment building so we can own part of our neighborhood, so we can have a say on what type of businesses come in. Because we complain about, oh, they're bringing a Starbucks or they're bringing this. All right, why don't you open up a coffee shop? Why aren't you trying to develop products? Again, we had Harlem, we had parts of Brooklyn. That was us. Those were our. We could have built that up over the last 30 years, but we chose not to do that. We chose to take our money and spend it on garbage. A lot of us were out here, but I mean, I remember when I was a kid, everybody had a brand new car. Everybody had expensive clothes. Everybody had everything, but they weren't using their money to buy what they needed to buy. They weren't using their money to invest. They weren't investing in their own community, and the community in the 80s was going for nothing. And now somebody else bought the property. Somebody else was buying property, and now they're developing. And that's on you. That's on us. That's on black people. We didn't do what we needed to do, and now we're getting upset that somebody else is doing it. That that's on us. And it's not about racism. It's not about white supremacy. It's just about you being lazy and not wanting to do the work. And the problem with a lot of black people is they just don't want to do the work. They don't want to put in the 12 or 13-hour days in a store, or 12 or 13-hour days, or like I used to do, where I would work 8 hours on a job when I had my job at civil service, where I'd work 8 or 9 hours on a job and then come home and then do 6 or 7 more hours on your own business or something like that. They don't want to do that type of work. They don't want to put in that type of effort. Or what I'm doing right now, where I'm working, I get up at 7:30 in the morning, and sometimes I'm not finished working until about 1:30, 2 o'clock at night. They don't want to do that every day. What a lot of black folks want is something handed to them, something given to them. They want. I mean, and the thing is, government has all these programs. We could have bought our own neighborhood. We could have bought our own property. We could have bought our own neighborhoods and stuff. But it's like you could have been making money off Section 8. And a lot of black people don't even understand it. You could have had these tools. All these tools are around you, but you decide to do nothing with them. You just literally give your own community to other people. It's not a gentrification. It's just you gave it. You didn't do anything with it. I mean, that has nothing to do with racism or white supremacy. I mean, I know there's racism and white and stuff like that, but these neighborhoods were going for nothing, but you decided not to spend any money on it. It's not spend money on. I mean, when you're spending money on junk, you can't complain when somebody else takes their money and decides to do what they want with it. When somebody else has a vision for something, and you had it all along. I mean, a lot of us, it's like we don't know how to. We just. I look at black people as just. They just want somebody to blame. They want somebody to complain. They want something to complain about. But then when you tell them to put their nose to the grindstone, when you tell them to get up and go do something, no, I don't want to do that, man. That's too hard. No, that's too hard. I don't want to do that. They don't want to do anything. Well, then they talk about they're taking the neighborhood from us. And I looked at that article and Spike Lee was talking about it. I said, it's ridiculous. I'm like, why didn't you invest some money? I'm like, Spike Lee, why didn't you invest some money in the community? Why didn't you build a neighborhood up? Why didn't you buy buildings in the neighborhood? I mean, these people have millions of dollars. I know it's like he had millions of dollars. He had an opportunity to build it up. He didn't do it. No, he's spending his money giving it to James Dolan and the Dolan family and New York Knicks basketball tickets. That's it's like you can't have it both ways. I mean, if you want investment in your community, you're gonna have to put your own money into it. The reason why these other people invest in your community because they know you're not going to do it. I mean, and then when the Koreans and the Arabs and all these other people and the white people and the people behind the gentrification invest their money in, they deserve to get a return on their investment because that's how business works. That's how capitalism works. You put money in, you get money back. Black people put no money in and they get nothing back. That's their fault. That's our fault. And until more black people start learning to take responsibility for their own money and take responsibility on how they spend their money, they can't complain. You can't complain because you don't produce anything. You don't own anything. You have not invested in anything. In order to get returns on investment, you have to put investment in. You only get what you put in. And that's the same thing I've learned way back in high school. It's like you get what you get out of something what you put into it. And black people, we want to put the minimum in and get the maximum out. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. You complain about your neighborhood getting gentrified? Well, that's nobody's fault, but your own. Again, you had 30 years. I look at the perspective. I mean, growing up as a kid, I looked at it, and black people had 30 years to do something. Actually, I say 40 years to do something after the Civil Rights Movement. After the Civil Rights Movement, we had plenty of time, but instead of taking our time and our precious time and using it valuably, we threw it in the garbage. We goofed off. We slacked off. And now we're getting upset. It's like, you have no one to be upset with but yourself. That's your fault. No, I'm sorry, black people. It's your fault. That's your fault your neighborhood's getting gentrified. It's your fault your community's falling apart. You did nothing for 40 years. I mean, you had all the tools, all of them, to build up a quality black community. And you did nothing with them. I mean, you even had extra tools with these government benefits and government programs. But instead of doing that, you became consumer whores. And now you're paying for your consumerism because you've got mountains of junk and nothing to show for it. It just boggles my mind thinking about the way black people always want to play the victim, always want to be a crybaby, and want to talk about how everybody's doing them wrong. And you had the tools for 40 years. I mean, the slaves, I think about the slaves in history. When they had the tools, they built up towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street, and they built businesses, and they built enterprise, and they built networks. They had the same, and the sad part is they had less than black people have today. I mean, we have all these programs, we have all these resources, but because our minds are messed up, we don't use them. I mean, slaves had less than what we had, but they learned how to build skills. They learned how to develop skills. They learned how to build institutions and build businesses. Today's black people, I mean, I really look at them and it's just pathetic when they talk about how somebody's taking your neighborhood. Nobody's taking your neighborhood. You didn't buy your neighborhood. Every other community, they bought their neighborhood. They bought the land it's on. They bought the property it's on. They have the deeds to the homes. They have the deeds to the storefronts. They have the deeds to everything. And it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. You had every opportunity in the late 60s and the early 70s to create a black community that you owned. But instead of taking that chance, taking that opportunity, took your money, went out to Barney's, bought the surge suits, like Ralph Ellison talked about that in Invisible Man. You wanted to go sit at the Woolworth counter? Well, guess what? Those guys have your money now. And you can't complain about that. You can't complain about them taking your neighborhood because you never took the opportunity to buy your own neighborhood. You never took the opportunity to buy your own businesses. You never took the opportunity to hire your own people. Really? You can't really, black people, you just got to stop complaining about people taking your neighborhood, because if you really valued your neighborhood, you would have tried to protect it yourself. You would have tried to invest in your own businesses and your own property. You would have taken the opportunities presented to you. They're right in front of you. I mean, staring you in the face. You would take these opportunities instead of just sitting here and talking about everybody's taking the neighborhood from you. Nobody took the neighborhood from you. You took it from yourself. That's all I have to say from this video. Comment, rate, and subscribe.